My name is Carl Bussey, and we're here again to talk about issues at hand. Primarily, we're here to talk about the election of Stephanie Burton. My guest today is the Honorable Keith Brown, community leader, community preacher, community pastor, community father. He's kind of everything active in our community, and he wants to talk with me about Stephanie Burton running for prosecuting attorney of Jackson County. Good morning, Brother Brown.
Good morning, esteemed attorney.
Well, first thing we want to talk about is why should we elect Stephanie Burton as prosecutor? What does she bring to the table that no one else in the race brings? So, can you answer that question for me?
I will attempt to. In my judgment, she comes with twofold power and experiences. One, she is a dynamic defense attorney, a trial lawyer. You need that in the prosecutor's office. One of the pitfalls of the prosecutor's office has been not strong trial attorneys. Furthermore, when she was in Wyandotte County, she was in that prosecutor's office, and she was the head of the victims integrity unit, something that she is experienced in. She knows how to create that and advocate for that, something that we don't have, to my knowledge, in Jackson County. She's she's educated. She's from this community, born, bred, and raised. And so she has a plethora of skills, expertise that will benefit and qualify her to be the next Jackson County prosecuting attorney.
And let me echo that. That is important that she has been in all phases of the criminal justice system, prosecutor's office, defense attorney. She also was head of the probation and parole office. So when she comes to the table, she brings great value and knowledge, which I think all of the candidates cannot bring. Is that important? I believe that's kind of important. And you mentioned the integrity unit. That means that she is probably won't bring cases unless she's convinced or firmly convinced that that person committed the offense. So that's important too. And the prosecutor's office is the buffer between justice and injustice, chaos and peace. So certainly I agree with you on that, that the knowledge that she brings, the experience that she brings is certainly important for the representation that she can provide. So, if that, in light of that, what new things or what new programs or what new ideas do you believe that she's bringing that's so important to a reduction in crime in our area, to a good police department, to good prosecutors and good community leadership? What ideas or programs do you believe she's had?
Well, as far as ideas, be it programming, be it um, the prosecutorial process, and especially that. See, I want to go back to the victim integrity unit. See, because that is an ideal that we've been tossing about for a long time, and it has not gotten the traction. It has not gotten the traction because there has been no legitimate will. Where there's a legitimate will, then things will happen. She has the expertise of a spider. When spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. When you think about the different webs on that, different entities that the spider weaves, I mean, it gets its food, it conquers its enemies, anything that is within the perimeter, the purview of that spider web is going to get caught. With Stephanie, she understands a mother's pain when it comes to her child being murdered or her child causing or being accused, rather, being accused of murder. So, because she's been on both sides of the fence from a legal perspective. And I think that the more that we can hone in on that, we can have a better outcome for our community when it comes to the prosecutorial process. And so, more than combat, more than programs, which they're going to be, you have to have an effective victims integrity unit with someone who understands, someone who has the experience and the expertise to bring it about and drive it.
And you understand that the victim integrity unit applies not only to the defendant, but also the victims, as you indicated, that the victims of crime.
That's right.
And primarily, we as a community, when any crime occurs, we're all victims. And we certainly want to stop it. We want to stop the nonsense. And we want to be able to provide alternatives for our youth. We want to be able to provide alternatives to crime, alternatives to any injustice that exists. And I think that the new leadership should be able to bring it. Now, particular programs that I think that Stephanie is going to institute is that the victim integrity program, because we have one, we have funded one in Jackson County, but we haven't heard of any results of that. I think there may be one or two that resulted in the release of inmates from the Department of Corrections. But I think that some of those was primarily due to not actions of the prosecutor, but possibly actions of the court. And I'm not sure about those because I know I've gone to some of the meetings with people who were jailed for more than 20 years or 26 years. It's unlike Kansas, where Kansas had a remuneration program. If you were falsely imprisoned, falsely accused of a crime, and you were innocent, you would get paid. But I don't know whether they do that in Missouri. But you also talk about combat, that we need that. But more importantly, we just need somebody fresh in the office to just bring new ideas to new situations that we have now. And in addition, we didn't mention that she has children. So she has a stake in the outcome and the results of prosecuting crime in Jackson County. So what other things do you think she brings?
Well, let me get back to her expertise. You know, when you talk about, yeah, we're all victims. either directly or indirectly. She has children. We know that there have been children, young folk that have been given sentences by prior and previous prosecutors that they never should have received. She has written affidavits, expert, sharp, that demonstrated her knowledge, her understanding, her acumen of this process of making sure that even those who may have been guilty of a crime, that they don't have to serve forever if the crime didn't fit that. And I know for a fact that there have been situations where, had she been prosecuted with the kind of affidavits that she wrote, that some folk would be home. They served their time. All right. They don't have to serve into infinitum and forever a life sentence on crimes that murderers don't even get in terms of time. See, I think.
Hold on, let me get back to that.
Yeah.
You know, the federal courts have sentencing guidelines. And you understand that during the 90s, under those sentencing guidelines, they were warehousing people in jail who did little or nothing. And of course, over time, we have learned that incarceration, wholesale warehousing, doesn't work. When they did that, when they just started reacting to a situation and just started putting people in jail, primarily the minorities, it doesn't work. Crime has now increased. So we have learned already, and that's at least one of the programs that I believe that Ms. Burton intends to incorporate, that it is better to educate rather than incarcerate. And I think that those things can be done through combat. And so my question to you is, and so you understand, I had to make a comment first. My question is, you think that we should have sentencing guidelines in order for us to reduce sentences? Kansas has the sentencing guidelines that if a person makes a mistake or it's a property crimes, they are differentiated and distinguished from violent contact or assaultive contact. What do you think that we should do with that?
I want to answer that. Then I want to share something else in terms of her expertise that's critical. Yeah, I think we should have sentencing guidelines and making sure that everyone, regardless of crimes, aren't lumped in the same sentencing basket. All right, because it is unfair if I'm selling. Well, hey, we have a whole lot of folk who are still in jail for selling marijuana. But then when the law passed where folk could profit from it, people are profiting from it business-wise, and you still have folk in jail, nonviolent offenders too. I know some that's in prison right now while folk are selling and making money. And so, yeah, we should have a sentencing guideline. But I want to share something else that's very, very, very important. And I know that Stephanie really gets this. You know, we have quite a few in the prison population people who have been sentenced, who have mental disabilities, mental illnesses, schizoaffective disorder, different facets of schizophrenia. We'll just use that. They're not receiving the help that they need behind bars. These toxic pharmaceutical pills that they're given, it worsens their state of mind when they're locked up. At least out here, they're able to medicate themselves with something that may not be right, but they're still able to medicate themselves. In there, they can't. They have to take the drugs that are prescribed. America has never been about healing. The pharmaceutical industry is about making money. And so you keep on feeding them these drugs, and they're getting worse. I think that her prowess will allow us to debate this issue factually, intelligently, because there has to be another way other than the kind of incarceration where you're putting them in these populations that can really take advantage of them.
And I agree with that. But I guess one of the primary things is when you say debate, that I think that Stephanie will bring to the table community cooperation, community conversation, because the bottom line is that we can't really effectually reduce crime, reduce efforts as best we can, unless all we can. And that's what I think that she will bring, the community collectively coming together, talking about these things, and being open about what's going on in the prosecutor's office. And we can all collectively come together and stop all of this that's going on. The other thing, and this is the last thing that I just wish to talk about for a moment. We try to want remedies for guns, but yet our legislatures, our community is asking for guns. And then we want to destroy a kid's life because they brought a gun to the school. But yet we're telling everybody you can carry guns, you can conceal guns, you can carry them, you can do all that. And then when a child does that, we want to incarcerate. Is that the goal? Is that what we should do? Or should we educate as opposed to incarcerate? And that's the last thing.
Now, here's the reason that we incarcerate instead of educate, instead of providing viable alternatives. Because when you look at Missouri, which is a red Republican state, which is about building prisons, locking folk up, the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, still perpetuating slavery in these institutions. See, not only do they make money, but when we are in prison, then the jurisdiction that the prison population is in, they're the ones who are counted in the vote when it comes to how many representatives you get. See, they don't count no more in the cities that they come from. All right, they count elsewhere. And so it is a new form of slavery covered up with certain niceties of complexity. I mean, that's what's going on. And so no, they're not going to stop the guns. because it benefits a certain population that's getting rich. And they don't care if we die. They don't care. See, power concedes nothing without demand. It never has and it never will. That's what Frederick Douglass talked about. And so it's a power move by them. See, and and like a serpent, forked tongue, they talk out of both sides of their mouth.
We want to thank you for being here today. We invite you to let's start discussions. We invite you to contact What's Up Kansas City so that we can all be on the same page, or at least intelligently have dialogue and then come up with a group solution. And I think if we can do that, and we're starting that, and again, we want to thank Reverend Keith Brown for being here today so we can do the discussion. And we know that he's very supportive of Stephanie Burton to initiate those discussions. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.